is real and people can't control it. It's a very similar thing to saying everything happens for a reason. You can't control everything you do, but there's a reason that it happens. And I'm here to prove to you that it is. It is a real thing. Today I'll be using 102 Minutes by Jim Dwyer and Kevin Flynn to show some examples of fate on 9/11. This was a day of life and death. People died. Some people were alive from the most rarest thing. Like, we have no idea how they're alive. And even through 110 floors collapsing, Jim and Kevin managed to show these stories of hope and fate. One of the most shocking stories our authors told was of Jay Jonas and Ladder 6 surviving the collapse. Here are 2 quotes. The first one says, "The stub of Stairway B proved to be a refuge for Captain Jay Jonas of the fire department and the men accompanying Josephine Harris out the building, who were among 16 people who survived the building's collapse there." And then the second one, "The men of Ladder 6 regarded Harris as a guardian angel, a blessing, who had arrived very much in disguise when speed down the stairs had seemed the safest choice. Instead, her halting descent had given them all an opportunity to continue on with their lives." For the second quote, I'm not connecting to religion or beliefs, but it's a good way to show that the emotions of the event were impactful and very fate-like. It was fate that they were commanded to save Harris. It was fate that they were there in the exact place when the building fell. If anything else happened, if anything else was different, they would have probably been killed. If they were anywhere else, they would have probably been killed. So it's very rare and very minuscule how special fate is, and which is why examples like these prove that fate is real, because it's just people can control their fate and what happens to them. Fate cannot be controlled. It's something you can't tell what to do. For example, you can't tell a tornado to stop where it is while you flee the area the tornado is headed to. That isn't fate. That's you making a smart decision in a dangerous situation. You can't control things. You can't control fate when it has nothing to do with you. Fate is what happens to you. You can't be a part of it. It's what happens. So we take it back to the example, and it's like this story. No one planned this survival. No one thought that the buildings were going to collapse and then they would be in a pocket where they stayed alive. No one planned that. They were strictly trying to survive on their own. And that part wasn't controlling their fate. They were just trying to survive. However, the building still collapsed. But at that moment, where they were, they had no control on if they lived or died in that moment. So fate, whatever, and I'm not in a position where I can tell you what fate is, if it's a religion, if it's like the guardian angel thing, but I'm just saying that thing, that fate, that definition is telling you that you lived. It's as simple as that. And speaking of the definition of fate is the development of events beyond a person's control regarding as determined by a supernatural power. The literal definition says it is not controlled by a person, which means people cannot control their fate. Rare coincidence. It is something that is meant to happen. Just like I said in the beginning, everything happens for a reason. That is very similar to this. It happened. It's nothing that you could control. And the authors, Jim Dwyer and Kevin Flynn, did a great job explaining and showing that sometimes fate is just completely out of the blue, and it's either really good or it can be really bad. And in this case, it was really good. And I think this is a great example of how fate can be powerful and strong. Thank you for listening and tuning in.